She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Just tweak the numbers, make it look better." In that moment, I realized she wanted me to lie, and I could either risk my career, or let her fall all on her own. What happened next? Let's just say she didn't see it coming. If you've ever had someone try to manipulate or undermine you, hit that subscribe button. Like this video, and watch closely, because this isn't just a story of revenge, it's a story of precision, patience, and poetic justice. And trust me, the ending is satisfying. Picture him first. My neighbor, the type of guy who makes you roll your eyes the second he walks into view. 6 foot something, broad-shouldered, mid-20s, with an arrogance that screams, "Rules don't apply to me." He moves like the world is a runway and everyone else is just an inconvenience. And his favorite hobby? Parking. Right in front of my driveway. Not once. Not twice. But every single time I needed to leave or come home. And every single time, I was trapped, staring at his crusty silver sedan, wondering if the universe was testing my patience or my sanity. At first, I tried being reasonable. I left polite notes. "Hey, can you please not block my driveway?" "Thanks." The notes disappeared like confetti in the wind. I tried talking to him face to face. "Hey, seriously, you can't park here. I need to get out." "Oh, I'm just here for a bit," he'd say casually, flashing that smirk that makes you want to throw your own shoes at him. A bit apparently meant 3 to 5 hours every single time. And the worst part? He didn't care at all. Weeks went by. Every time, my blood pressure rose a little higher. I imagined him hosting imaginary parties in his head while I calculated whether I could Uber to work on time. I noticed my own behavior changing. I'd drive past, check if he was in front of my driveway, sigh heavily, even plan errands to avoid confrontation. And that's when anger starts to simmer, the kind that doesn't just want you to yell. It wants justice. The breaking point. It all came to a head last week. I pulled up to my house and there it was, that silver sedan, smugly planted across my driveway. I saw him through his window, putting on cologne, adjusting his outfit, smiling at himself. Clearly going somewhere, a date, maybe? Tinder, perhaps? Something inside me shifted. That energy that tells you it's time to stop waiting for karma and start orchestrating it yourself. I grabbed my phone and called the local towing service. A few taps later, the tow truck was on its way. No notes, no warnings, just action. My pulse raced, a mix of nerves and excitement. This was it. This was the moment the universe and I would finally align. The wait and the drama. I settled on my porch with a cold drink, feeling like the calm before a storm. 45 minutes passed. I heard the faint rumble of the tow truck approaching, chains clinking. And then, silence. A knock on my door. A girl, dressed up for a date, walked up the sidewalk. Hair perfect, outfit carefully chosen, heels clicking. She knocked, and he answered, smiling, until he noticed something was off. His eyes darted around in confusion. Then horror. The silver sedan? Gone. Towed. Vanished. I could hear panic in his voice. "Where's my car? Who took it?" She looked equally confused. "Wait, what?" I couldn't help myself. Calmly, almost casually, I leaned over from my porch. "If you're looking for your car, it got towed. You were blocking my driveway." Again. Time seemed to slow. He tried to argue, to explain, every word only made it worse. I was just. The girl interrupted, eyes wide, judgment clear. Wait, you parked in front of his driveway? He nodded, desperate, hoping she'd understand. She shook her head slowly. Wow. That's trash, she said, and walked away. I watched him stand there, mouth open, like a cartoon character who just realized the anvils would fall. Confidence shattered. Ego bruised. And deservedly so. The aftermath. That night, something changed. He hasn't blocked my driveway since. Not once. And he never brought another girl home after that. I can't say if it was shame, fear of judgment, or newfound respect for boundaries, but my life, once dominated by passive frustration, was suddenly mine again. There's something deeply satisfying about earned revenge. Not malicious. Not excessive. Just perfectly timed, proportionate, and effective. Watching him face the consequences of his arrogance, in front of someone who thought he was impressive, was pure joy. Psychological breakdown. Here's why this worked so well. 1. Frustration to action. I let my anger simmer, but didn't lash out impulsively. I waited for the right moment, which amplified the psychological impact. 2. Public exposure. By timing the toe with his date, I turned private arrogance into public humiliation. Not mean-spirited, karmic. 3. Proportional justice. No physical harm. No life-changing repercussions. Just a lesson in respect. 4. Empowerment. This wasn't about hurting him. It was about reclaiming my space, my peace, my dignity. The next morning, I logged onto the newly created Ashley Madison account. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment. I had to make her perfect. Confident, enticing, just the right combination of allure and normalcy. She wasn't over the top, not unrealistic, but there had to be a subtle edge, a knowing sophistication that would make him think he had found someone rare. And then I sent the first message. It was simple. Polite, teasing, inviting, but nothing overtly sexual at first. Just enough to spark curiosity, to make him think he had stumbled across something forbidden, thrilling. I waited. The reply came faster than I anticipated. Wow, didn't expect a wink from someone like you. Are you, for real? I smiled at my screen. He took the bait. That was the first victory. Over the next few days, the messages flowed. He revealed more than I had expected. I could feel it in the words, the way he typed with a mixture of lust and arrogance. He told me about his life, job frustrations, the daily monotony, the way his wife never understood him or never satisfied him. He even described the bedroom in detail, the things he wanted that his wife refused. Every revelation was a dagger to the person he thought he was, the man he believed he could keep hidden from the world. And I soaked it in. But it wasn't easy. There were nights I questioned myself. Was I becoming too invested in this? Did the thrill of the plan start to overshadow the original purpose, justice for my sister? I reminded myself of the house he stole, the custody battles, the lies. I reminded myself of my sister, devastated, crying herself to sleep while he flaunted his victory. No, this wasn't personal indulgence. This was justice. Pure, unadulterated, precise. Weeks passed. We exchanged more than 100 messages. He became increasingly explicit, increasingly careless, letting his arrogance cloud judgment. He trusted me, blindly. And every word he typed, every desire he confessed, became ammunition. But just as things were progressing perfectly, doubt crept in. There were moments when I wondered if he might catch on. If he somehow sensed something off, if he realized I wasn't who I said I was, everything could collapse. Months of careful planning, the perfect setup for revenge, could be ruined in a single message. I spent sleepless nights crafting responses. I imagined him reading my messages aloud, imagining me with him. I had to walk the line between enticing him and keeping him unsuspecting. Every punctuation mark, every phrase had to feel real, natural. The psychological weight of it pressed down on me. I could feel my pulse racing in anticipation and fear. And then, the plan escalated. I suggested meeting. Just a casual encounter, no pressure. He jumped at the idea immediately, arranging times, suggesting locations. He didn't suspect anything. He was so convinced of his own cunning, so sure of his invincibility, that he didn't see the trap closing around him. There were close calls. Times when I nearly slipped, when I almost included too much information, too little caution. I had to remind myself to step back, to breathe, to remember that patience was key. If I rushed this, if I gave even a hint of my true identity, the revenge would fail. And I couldn't afford failure, not after all the suffering he had caused. Meanwhile, I could see the toll this was taking on him. His messages were increasingly desperate for attention, for affirmation, for the thrill of cheating again. He was unraveling, willingly. Every detail he shared, every plan he made him more vulnerable. And I felt a strange mixture of exhilaration and satisfaction. The real turning point came one night when he sent me a message detailing exactly how he wanted our meeting to go. He described step by step, room by room, movement by movement, how he imagined our encounter. He spoke about his life, his work, his dissatisfaction with his wife, and how he felt trapped. He was exposing everything, every weakness, every desire. I realized then how close I was to total control. This was no longer just a plan. This was art. And yet, there was tension, too. Every time I saw a new message, I could feel my chest tighten, my pulse spike. I reminded myself, do not slip. Do not give away a single clue. He could ruin everything with one careless thought. One mistake, one suspicion, and it would all collapse. But I was ready. I had waited long enough. I had learned enough. And I was about to move from the digital world to real-life consequences. Finally, he proposed a meeting at a motel near his house. My heart raced, not with fear of discovery, but with the anticipation of seeing my plan reach its climax. Little did he know, this encounter wouldn't end the way he imagined. The message came late one Friday night. His text blinked on my screen. I can't wait any longer. Let's meet tomorrow night. The motel near 5th and Main? I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly, tasting the adrenaline like bitter chocolate. This was it, the moment I had been preparing for, months of careful manipulation, hundreds of messages, every detail of his life meticulously extracted and catalogued. And now, the final step. But the brilliance of revenge lies in patience. I couldn't rush it. This had to be perfect. Every detail calculated. Every reaction anticipated. I spent the evening reviewing the messages, printing select lines, highlighting his admissions, how he had disparaged his wife, how he had fantasized about cheating, how he had revealed intimate, private details about his life. Each snippet a dagger in his already fragile sense of invincibility. Then I crafted my final set of messages. They were seductive, playful, and teasing, enough to keep him on edge, imagining a real encounter, but leaving the real outcome ambiguous. I wanted him to feel triumph, to feel that rush of imminent gratification. That way, the sting of betrayal would be absolute. I imagined him leaving work the next day, heart racing, excitement building with each mile toward the motel. He thought he was about to get away with lust, escape the consequences, and affirm his superiority. But he had no idea. Late that night, I sent the final message. Can't wait to see you. You're going to make this unforgettable. Then, I waited. The thrill of anticipation was almost unbearable. I checked my email obsessively, reading and rereading his replies. He was counting down the hours, detailing how he'd sneak away, imagining the scenario exactly as he had described to me. He was blind to the danger, trapped by his own hubris. Meanwhile, I made one final, crucial decision: the distribution of evidence. I printed the entire exchange, not just select lines, but the full narrative, complete with timestamps and explicit admissions. Every word he had sent, every fantasy, every derogatory remark about his wife, every deceitful plan, laid bare on paper. I packaged it carefully, preparing to send it to his wife's office. This had to hit at the right moment, not too soon, not too late. Timing was essential. I didn't want suspicion on me. I wanted the revelation to feel like divine intervention, as though the universe itself had delivered justice. And then came the most delicate part, covering my tracks. If he suspected me, the entire plan would collapse. I needed an explanation for why these messages were sent. So I created the perfect alibi, a story of a hacked account, an innocent victim whose email had been compromised. Plausible, believable, yet distant enough to deflect any suspicion. That night, I lay awake, heart pounding, imagining his reaction. I imagined him reading the messages, confusion first, then outrage, then panic. I imagined the humiliation, the social and professional consequences, the complete unraveling of the life he thought he controlled. And my sister. I imagined her reading the messages in her office, the initial shock giving way to vindication. I imagined her sense of justice, her face lighting up with a mix of relief and triumph. This wasn't just revenge, it was restoration. The hours dragged, each one a test of patience. Finally, it was time. I hit send. The emails delivered like a strike of lightning. His carefully constructed world, the one he had built on deceit and manipulation, began to collapse immediately. Within moments, the first messages arrived, angry, frantic, defensive. He had no idea how to respond. His own words, the intimate details he had shared in confidence, were now evidence of his duplicity, undeniable and damning. And as the messages from his wife arrived, confirming her disbelief and fury, I smiled. The trap had worked flawlessly. He was completely ensnared, and I had orchestrated every step. By morning, the fallout would be complete. His marriage, already fragile, would shatter. The house, the custody of his child, the alimony, all within reach of my sister's rightful hands. And he would never know who had set this all in motion. Morning came slowly, the sun creeping across the blinds as if reluctant to witness what was about to unfold. I had checked my phone a dozen times overnight, each notification sending a thrill through me. The trap had been set. The emails were delivered. The evidence was in the right hands. I imagined him waking up that morning, groggy, scrolling through his inbox, and the first sting hitting him like an ice-cold punch. He would see the messages, my messages, his messages, all laid bare. His confidence, arrogance, and delusions of invincibility would shatter before he even had time to comprehend it. And that's exactly what happened. Within minutes, his phone buzzed relentlessly. Angry, confused messages poured in. He tried to rationalize, to deny it, to blame some outside force, but the words were his own. There was no room for deniability. Every sordid confession, every disparaging remark, every salacious detail about his desires, there it was, evidence in black and white. Then the real shock came. His wife's replies began to flood in. I imagined her office, the initial pause as she scanned the emails, disbelief etched across her face. Her breath caught in her throat as the truth hit like a tidal wave. And then, anger. Resolution. Triumph. The realization that finally, justice was hers. I stayed in the background, a silent observer of chaos and retribution. I didn't need recognition. I didn't need glory. The satisfaction was in the outcome, my sister's vindication. I could almost hear her laughter, quiet at first, building into a triumphant roar as the reality sank in. He panicked. He sent furious messages to the fake account, cursing, threatening, demanding explanations. But I had anticipated every question. Calmly, I replied with the perfect story, a hacked email, an innocent victim, a husband unknowingly involved. Plausible. Believable. And it worked. He believed it. Meanwhile, my sister's world began to reclaim itself. The house that had been stolen from her was back in her hands. Full custody of her child was secured. Alimony, fair and necessary, was finally obtained. Her life, once stolen, was restored. And the man who had caused her so much pain, he was left with nothing but his own humiliation. He never remarried. He still lives in a modest apartment, far from the life he once manipulated. He remains oblivious to who orchestrated his downfall. And every time I think about him, I imagine the shock, the anger, the disbelief, the perfect mixture of emotions that only comes when someone realizes they've been outsmarted at their own game. For my sister, life moved forward. She is stronger, wiser, and more cautious. The betrayal she endured shaped her into a woman who would never allow herself to be undermined again. But she also learned the sweet, quiet satisfaction of watching justice, carefully planned and flawlessly executed, unfold before her eyes. And me? I walked away knowing that the world sometimes fails to punish the guilty. Sometimes, you have to do it yourself. And when you do it right, it is exquisite. I have no regrets. None. The lesson is clear: deceit has consequences. Betrayal has a price. And when someone believes they are untouchable, they are the easiest to bring down. Looking back, I realized this wasn't just revenge. It was reclamation. A restoration of what was stolen, not just material possessions, but dignity, power, and the belief that justice can exist even when the system fails. My sister moved on, stronger and wiser. He lives a life diminished, stripped of the arrogance that once defined him. Sometimes, justice doesn't come from the courts or from fate. Sometimes, it comes from those who refuse to be powerless. And sometimes, it comes perfectly. If you've ever felt powerless, betrayed, or underestimated, remember, justice can be yours. Share your thoughts, like this video, subscribe for more stories of ultimate revenge, and remember, sometimes karma just needs a little help.